2 aircraft carriers. That's the number nobody expects when the conversation turns to Italy. Not 1, 2. And on one of those carriers, right now, while you're watching this video, 5th generation stealth fighters are sitting on the flight deck. Aircraft capable of hitting targets hundreds of miles away without appearing on a single radar screen. Italian aircraft, Italian crew, Italian carrier. Now stop for a second. Run through everything you know about Italy. The crippling national debt, governments that collapse with almost comedic regularity, an aging population, an economy that spent decades struggling to grow, and yet 2 aircraft carriers, stealth fighters, 8 submarines running silent beneath the Mediterranean, American nuclear weapons sitting on Italian soil, troops deployed on 3 continents at the same time. How? That's the question almost nobody asks, because the answer forces a complete rethink of how military power actually works in the modern world. Right now, Europe is rearming at a speed nobody has seen since the 1940s. Germany is rebuilding from almost zero. France is fighting to protect its strategic independence at every turn. Poland is growing fast. Everyone is writing plans, announcing investments, promising future capabilities. Italy already built the machine, and that changes everything. Not just for people who follow defense policy, but for anyone who wants to genuinely understand how power moves in 2026. Over the next 25 minutes, you're going to see exactly why Italy is not the medium power it appears to be on the map. You'll see the defense industry that partly funds itself by selling to the world what it builds for itself. You'll see where Italian forces are positioned right now and why those specific locations are worth more than 10,000 extra soldiers. And you'll understand the quiet nuclear role that very few analysts ever discuss openly. By the end of this, you will not look at Italy the same way again. Let's start with the uncomfortable question nobody asks out loud. How? How does a country with one of the highest debt-to-GDP ratios in the Western world manage to operate 2 aircraft carriers, 5th generation stealth fighters, 8 submarines, over 300 naval assets, and troops deployed on 3 continents at the same time? How does a country with an aging population and a historically volatile political landscape consistently rank inside the global top 10 for military power? Most analysts wave it away. They'll say Italy benefits from NATO infrastructure, that the numbers are misleading, that you shouldn't read too much into the rankings. But that explanation is lazy, because the real answer is far more interesting and far more important. Italy doesn't just spend on defense. Italy builds defense, and that difference is enormous. While Germany was importing American hardware and France was protecting its domestic industry at almost any cost, Italy built something different, an industrial ecosystem that equips its own military and then sells the excess to the world. Think about that for a moment. Companies like Leonardo, Italy's aerospace and defense giant, design and manufacture fighter jet components, military helicopters, naval electronics, radar systems, and cybersecurity platforms. Fincantieri, one of the most advanced shipbuilders on Earth, builds warships not just for Italy, but for navies across Europe, the Middle East, and beyond. These aren't just defense contractors. They are a self-reinforcing loop. Italy's military industry generates the revenue that partly sustains the military. The capability Italy builds for itself creates the export products that fund the next generation of Italian capability. That economic engine doesn't exist in many countries. It exists in Italy. And here's what makes 2026 particularly important. Every European country scrambling to rearm right now, every government rushing to close the capability gap, is a potential customer for Italian ships, Italian aircraft systems, Italian electronics. Italy doesn't just benefit from the European rearmament wave as a buyer, it benefits as a seller. While others are buying, Italy is selling too. That's the hidden engine behind the military power. But economics alone don't explain everything, because there's one more factor. One Italy didn't earn, didn't build, and cannot be replicated by any amount of money: geography. Look at a map of the Mediterranean Sea. Really look at it. The Italian peninsula stretches southward, like an arrow pointing directly at the heart of North Africa. It sits almost exactly at the center of the Mediterranean basin. To the west, the exit toward the Atlantic. To the east, the gateway to the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf. To the south, Libya, Tunisia, Egypt. To the northeast, the Balkans, the Adriatic, and beyond that, Ukraine and the Black Sea. Italy doesn't just border the Mediterranean. Italy commands it. Every energy pipeline from North Africa to Europe passes near Italian waters. Every cargo ship from Asia heading for Western European ports transits through Italian spheres of influence. Every migration wave, every smuggling route, every Russian or Chinese naval vessel that enters the Mediterranean, Italy sees them first. And that geography shaped the Italian military from the very beginning. Because when you live at the center of the world's most contested waterway, you don't build a static land army designed to hold a border in Poland. You build a force that can project power in every direction. You build a navy. You build an air force that can reach North Africa in minutes. You build a deployment machine that can be anywhere in the Mediterranean in hours and anywhere in the world in days. That's exactly what Italy built. Let's start on the ground. The Italian army maintains roughly 100,000 active soldiers, backed by reserves and supplemented by the Carabinieri, Italy's national gendarmerie, more than 100,000 strong, capable of overseas deployment and military operations alongside regular army units. But raw numbers tell you almost nothing. What matters is how those soldiers are organized, what they're trained for, and what they're equipped with. Italy operates around 200 Ariete main battle tanks, upgraded versions, new composite armor, improved fire control systems, better sensors, and electronics. And yes, if you've spent any time in military forums over the years, you've seen the debates about the Ariete. Critics pointed at its production numbers, its older gun, its export record. Those critiques weren't entirely wrong 10 years ago. But 10 years ago is ancient history in military terms. The war in Ukraine delivered a lesson every serious defense ministry in the world absorbed. The modern battlefield is transparent. Drones see everything. Loitering munitions hunt everything. Artillery ranges have stretched beyond what most Cold War planners imagined. And a tank without modern sensors, modern electronics, and modern protection is not a weapon. It's a target. Italy got that message early. The Ariete upgrade program wasn't cosmetic. It was adaptation, a recognition that tomorrow's armored warfare looks nothing like yesterday's. But here's what's actually more interesting than the tanks. Because Italy's real ground force advantage isn't armor, it's specialization. The Alpini brigades. If you've never heard of them, picture soldiers who train for months in terrain where conventional armor cannot go. Mountains, alpine passes, dense, freezing, vertical terrain. The Alpini are Italy's mountain warfare specialists with centuries of tradition and thoroughly modern equipment. And if you remember the Cold War maps showing Soviet armor pushing through Central Europe, those Alpini units were originally designed to fight exactly that scenario in the Alps. Different era, different enemy, same mountains. Then there's the Folgore Parachute Brigade, airborne troops, highly trained for rapid deployment. The kind of unit you call when a crisis needs soldiers on the ground before the morning news has even reported the problem. And here's the detail that always gets overlooked. Italy operates over 6,000 armored fighting vehicles across all types: infantry carriers, reconnaissance platforms, self-propelled artillery, mobile air defense systems, logistics vehicles, then add tens of thousands of support and transport vehicles. Why does that matter so much? Because in modern warfare, logistics isn't support. It is the war. The side that moves ammunition faster, repairs vehicles quicker, and sustains operations longer. That side usually wins. Napoleon said it. Rommel proved it the hard way. Every general who has ever fought a campaign that lasted more than 6 weeks knows it instinctively. Italy built a ground force designed to move, to sustain, to operate across difficult terrain over extended periods. But the army, impressive as it is not where Italy's military story reaches its most dramatic chapter. For that, you have to look up. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you're standing on the Veneto Plain in northeastern Italy on a cold winter morning. The Alps rise in front of you like a cathedral wall. White peaks, brutal cold, absolute silence. You can see your breath. There is no sound anywhere. Then you hear it, low at first, then building, then a sound like reality tearing open. A fighter jet climbs vertically off the runway, afterburner blazing, and within 4 seconds, it disappears above the cloud layer. Gone. Invisible. That's not science fiction. That's the Italian Air Force in 2026. The Italian Air Force operates 2 frontline fighter platforms simultaneously. The Eurofighter Typhoon, one of the finest air superiority fighters ever built, fast, agile, electronically sophisticated, carrying long-range air-to-air missiles and advanced radar suites. Italy operates more than 80 of them. If you're old enough to remember the political chaos of the 1990s European fighter debates, the arguments, the budget fights, the national ego on display, and you see what the Typhoon became, there's a real satisfaction in it. The Europeans built a world-class fighter. Italy helped build it, and Italy flies it. But the Typhoon is only half the story. Italy is one of the very few countries in the world that operates both variants of the F-35 stealth fighter, the F-35A, flown by the Air Force, and the F-35B, short takeoff, vertical landing, designed specifically for aircraft carriers. Stay with that second point because it matters enormously. Very few countries on Earth can launch 5th-generation stealth fighters from a carrier at sea. The United States can, the United Kingdom can, and Italy can. That is the list. Every other naval power either flies older aircraft, non-stealth designs, or is still building the capability. Italy is already doing it. Now, a lot of people hear the words stealth fighter and imagine Top Gun, dogfights, afterburners, missiles, and yes, the F-35 can do all of that. But that framing misses what makes 5th-generation aircraft genuinely revolutionary. An F-35 is not primarily a dogfighter. It is a flying sensor platform. It collects radar data, thermal signatures, electronic emissions, and signal intelligence simultaneously. It processes everything in real time. And then, this is the crucial part, it shares all of that information with every other asset in the network. Other aircraft, ground stations, ships at sea, command centers hundreds of miles away. Think of it this way. Old fighters fought alone, or in simple formations. They saw only what their own radar could find. They shot at targets they located themselves. 5th-generation warfare is completely different. The F-35 doesn't just fight. It makes every other weapon in the battle network smarter. It's the difference between sending a single hunter into a forest and sending a hunter who can tell every other hunter in the forest exactly where the prey is in real time, while remaining invisible itself. Italy is building that network, and it is not stopping with the F-35. Here's the detail that truly sets the long-term picture. Italy is a founding partner in the Global Combat Air Program, GCAP, alongside the United Kingdom and Japan. This is the program to develop and build a 6th-generation combat aircraft, designed to replace the Eurofighter Typhoon in the late 2030s, 6th generation. While most of Europe is still figuring out how to fully exploit 5th-generation capability, Italy is co-designing the aircraft generation that comes after it, and the engineering talent, the industrial knowledge, the manufacturing capability being built through GCAP will shape Italian air power for the next 50 years. But let's not get too far ahead, because there's something in Italy's current air force that almost nobody talks about, and it may be the most strategically important capability of all: tankers. Italy operates KC-767 aerial refueling tankers. These are the large aircraft that rendezvous with fighter jets in mid-flight, extend a fuel hose, and allow those fighters to stay airborne for many hours beyond their normal endurance. That sounds unglamorous. It is not. Without tankers, a fighter on patrol has maybe 90 minutes of useful combat time before it must turn back toward base. With tankers, that same jet can stay on station for 6, 7, 8 hours. It can range far beyond the range of its home airfield. It can cover territory that would otherwise be unreachable. Tankers are a force multiplier. They transform a regional air force into an expeditionary one. They are why Italy can project meaningful air power not just over the Mediterranean, but far beyond it. Very few European air forces have tankers in useful numbers. Italy does. Here's a sentence that tends to stop people mid-conversation. Italy operates 2 aircraft carriers, not 1, 2. The Cavour is the senior ship of the pair, a light carrier with a complement of F-35B stealth fighters and naval helicopters, capable of blue water operations anywhere in the world. It is a serious, modern warship with real combat power, not a helicopter barge, not a political statement. Then there is Trieste. ITS Trieste is something genuinely different. Over 245 meters long, commissioned in the early 2020s, it is technically classified as an amphibious assault ship, but calling it that severely undersells what it actually is. The Trieste can carry F-35B fighters, attack helicopters, transport helicopters, landing craft, armored vehicles, hundreds of Marines, and a complete command center. It can function simultaneously as a carrier, an amphibious assault platform, a command ship, and a hospital ship. It is one of the most versatile warships in any European Navy, period. Now, when people ask why Italy needs carriers, they're asking the wrong question. The right question is, what does Italy want to prevent? And the answer, when you understand Mediterranean geography, is simple. Italy does not want to fight a war on Italian soil. It wants to shape events far from Italian shores, before those events become Italian problems. Carriers are how you do that. They take the fight to the problem instead of waiting for the problem to arrive. But the carriers are only the most visible part of the Italian fleet. Italy operates FREMM frigates, among the most sophisticated surface combatants in any European navy. FREMM stands for Fregata Europea Multimissione, and Italy pushed hard on the anti-submarine warfare variant. These ships carry advanced phased array radar capable of tracking ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and aircraft simultaneously. They carry anti-submarine torpedoes and helicopters. They can escort a carrier group, patrol Atlantic approaches, or operate independently against a sophisticated adversary. These are not coastal patrol ships. These are warships designed for serious contested sea operations. And then there's the part of naval warfare that genuinely never makes the evening news: submarines. Italy operates 8 submarines, several of them modern Type 212A diesel-electric boats. These vessels use air-independent propulsion, a technology that allows them to run silently, without surfacing for extended periods, without the engine noise that conventional submarines generate when recharging batteries. In practical terms, they are extraordinarily difficult to detect. What do? They track adversary surface ships. They monitor submarine movements in the Mediterranean. They gather intelligence near critical choke points. They shadow vessels of interest for weeks at a time. They provide the kind of deep, quiet surveillance that satellites cannot. And if ordered to, they can sink things. Here's the strategic principle that makes submarines so powerful, even in small numbers. It's not what they do, it's what they prevent others from doing. No Russian naval commander transiting the Bosphorus, no regional power with Mediterranean ambitions, no foreign fleet operating in these waters can ever be certain that an Italian submarine is not nearby. That uncertainty changes behavior. That uncertainty creates caution, and in military strategy, making your adversary cautious is sometimes worth more than winning a battle. The Italian Navy also operates destroyers, patrol vessels, mine warfare ships, amphibious landing platforms, and extensive support infrastructure. Total active vessels and naval assets number well into the hundreds. For a country most people picture primarily through the lens of its Renaissance art and its football leagues, that is an extraordinary maritime machine. Here's something that will permanently change how you see Italy on a map. Italian military forces are deployed right now, not in plans, not in exercises, but actively operating across 3 continents simultaneously. In Eastern Europe, Italian forces have rotated through NATO's enhanced forward presence missions. Italian fighter jets have performed Baltic air policing, protecting the airspace of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, NATO territory that shares borders with Russia. Italian SAMP/T air defense batteries have deployed to Eastern Europe, protecting alliance territory against ballistic and cruise missile threats. Italian ground troops have contributed to multinational battle groups in countries like Latvia and Bulgaria. These are not exercises. These are tripwire deployments. NATO's message is plain: attack one ally, and all allies respond. Italian forces in the Baltics carry that message with real weight. In the Middle East, Italy has maintained forces in Iraq as part of the counter-ISIS coalition, training, advising, maintaining an intelligence presence across one of the most volatile regions in the world. In Lebanon, Italy has historically served as framework nation for UNIFIL, the UN peacekeeping force. Framework nation means Italy doesn't just contribute soldiers, it organizes, leads, and commands the mission. Lebanon sits at the intersection of Syria, Israeli security concerns, Hezbollah influence zones, and direct Mediterranean maritime access. Italian forces there are not just peacekeeping, they are positioned. And then there is Djibouti. If you don't immediately know why Djibouti matters, here's the version that makes it unforgettable. Picture a narrow passage of water. Every day, ships carrying the products that keep European economies functioning: electronics, oil, liquefied natural gas, consumer goods squeeze through this passage. On the other side is the Red Sea, then the Suez Canal, then the Mediterranean. Every LNG tanker from Qatar, every container ship from China, every oil cargo from the Arabian Gulf, they all go through this passage. It is called the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and Djibouti sits right at its mouth. Italy maintains a military base in Djibouti, Camp Mitrefra. Italian naval vessels patrol those waters. Italian forces support counter-piracy operations, anti-terrorism missions, and intelligence collection that directly protect the energy and commercial routes European economies depend on. When Houthi missile and drone attacks on Red Sea shipping created a genuine crisis in 2024 and through 2025, disrupting global trade routes and forcing rerouting around the Cape of Good Hope, the countries that could respond meaningfully were the ones already present. Italy was one of them. not scrambling to establish a presence. Already there, already operating, already with the contacts, the infrastructure, and the command relationships in place. That is what a real strategic footprint looks like. Not bases everywhere. The right bases, in the right places, filled with the right capabilities. There's one final element to Italy's strategic picture. Most people either don't know about it or don't want to think about it too directly. Italy is part of NATO's nuclear sharing arrangement. American B-61 nuclear gravity bombs are stored at 2 Italian air bases, Aviano in the northeast and Gaeti in Lombardy. Under NATO's dual-key arrangement, these weapons cannot be used unilaterally, but Italian aircraft, Italian pilots, and Italian command infrastructure are certified, trained, and operationally integrated into the system. Italian F-35, as flying from Gaeti are nuclear-capable aircraft. That is not a theoretical statement. It is a live operational capability. For a country that hasn't fought a major war since 1945, that is an extraordinary piece of strategic weight. And it means that in any serious conversation about European security architecture, about deterrence, about escalation management, about the future of NATO's nuclear posture, Italy is not optional. You cannot plan European nuclear deterrence without Italian air bases, Italian pilots, and Italian political commitment. Italy doesn't advertise this. It doesn't need to. The people who need to understand it already do. We are living through a strange and genuinely historic moment. The European nations that spent 30 years outsourcing their security to American guarantees are now facing a new reality. American strategic attention and resources are shifting. European NATO members are being asked, sometimes quite bluntly, to carry far more of their own weight, and the race to close the capability gap is creating an extraordinary reshuffling of continental power. In this environment, the countries with established military capacity, proven deployment experience, advanced domestic defense industries, genuine strategic geography, and the institutional knowledge that comes from decades of actual operations, those countries are suddenly worth far more than their populations, or debt levels would suggest. Germany is rebuilding from a very low baseline, starting almost from scratch after 3 decades of deliberate demilitarization. France is capable, but increasingly focused on its own nuclear independence and its particular relationship with its former colonies in Africa. The United Kingdom is capable, but operating partly outside the EU defense architecture after Brexit. Poland is growing fast, but starting from a different military tradition. Italy enters this moment differently. 2 carriers already commissioned and operational, stealth fighters already flying from carrier decks at sea, a submarine force already patrolling, FREM frigates already deployed, a 6th-generation fighter program already producing engineering and industrial capacity, a defense industry already capturing export contracts from the European rearmament surge. While others are writing plans, Italy is executing them. And here's the thought I want to leave you with. Italy's military power was never actually a secret. The ships were always in the harbors. The jets were always on the runways. The troops were always deployed. What changed is not Italy. What changed is the world around Italy. The world got more dangerous, more competitive, and more uncertain. Suddenly, the country that quietly built a flexible, deployable, industry-backed, geography-advantaged military machine, without enormous headlines, without dramatic announcements, without the performative urgency of countries that were doing far less, is exactly the kind of partner NATO needs most. The next time someone dismisses Italy as a beautiful country with complicated politics and economic problems, and they will, because that narrative is easier than the truth, just smile. Because you now know something they don't. Italy was never a medium power pretending to punch above its weight. It was always something else. The world is simply catching up. If you found this breakdown valuable, subscribe now, because next, we're going deep on another military force that has been doing exactly the same thing, growing quietly, building in the background, and about to make analysts scramble to catch up very fast. Don't miss that one.